The development of Azerbaijani contemporary music started in the 20th century. Contemporary music in this period, it includes operas, operettas, ballads, symphonies, and composed songs. Azerbaijani contemporary music was formed as a result of the composition of these different forms of works with folk music melodies. The founder of contemporary Azerbaijani music is the great composer Zeye Hacıbeyli. In 1907, he composed the opera Leyli and Majnun, which takes its subject from Fuzuli, and it was performed for the first time in 1908 at the Tagiev Theatre. The opera Leyli and Majnun was written in history as the first Mugam opera of the East. By composing this opera, Hacıbeyli laid the foundations of this genre in Azerbaijan, as well as laying the foundations of national harmony and polyphony. And by synthesizing polyphony with the monophonic structure of folk music, he combined Azerbaijani mugams with the harmony system of the West. In this period, mugam, which started to gain a new understanding with the influence of Western music, has an important place in Azerbaijani music. With this approach, initiated by Zeye Hacıbeyli, Azerbaijani composers started to produce works in different forms by making use of mugams in their works. One of these forms is the Symphonic Mugam genre created by Fikret Amirov. Ahmedzadeh defined Symphonic Mugam as an original symphonic genre characterized by the combination of symphonic music and Mugam music principles. Amirov brought a new perspective to Mugam and symphony music with his works Shur ve Kurd Ovshari, composed in 1948, and brought a new genre to Azerbaijani music. While writing these works, which are accepted as a synthesis of East and West, Amirov tried to express them within the framework of Western symphony normatives without breaking the integrity of the mugams. Shur, Symphonic Mugam, met with the audience in many prestigious stages of the world in a short time under the direction of famous conductors such as Rojdestvensky and Stokowski. This work of Amirov is considered as a golden page of Azerbaijani music history. Amirov's Symphonic Mugam works have an important place in the contemporary Azerbaijani music literature in terms of both the birth of a new genre and the symphonization of the Mugam genre. Amirov successfully used the synthesis of East and West in his works without breaking the foundation of Azerbaijani folk music and announced his national music to large audiences. In this respect, Amirov has an important place in the development of Azerbaijani music. Fikret Amirov was born on November 22, 1922 in Ganja, Azerbaijan, as the second child of tar artist Meshidi Cemil Amirov and Durdane Hanım. The depths of his father's world of music and the skillful tar art played a major role in Fikret's adoption of folk music and his growth as an artist. Fikret learned to play tar at a young age from his father Meshidi Cemil, who was his first teacher. Fikret Amirov expresses his love for the tar instrument in his musical life as follows. The eyes of Azerbaijani musical instruments are tar. According to its own harmony, timbre, vibration, and power, tar is not just an instrument. It is like an orchestra. It is the Azerbaijani tar that composes me. In 1939, the young Fikret successfully completed the tar class of the high school music school. Along with his high school, went to Baku to continue his education. With this, Fikret Amirov took the new and most important step of the path that took him to art. Amirov took the exams of the Azerbaijan State Conservatory upon the advice of Bulbul and Uzey Hacıbeyli and was entitled to study there. He completed his education at the conservatory in the composition department. It started in the class of Boris Isakovich Zeidman. In addition to all these difficulties, Uzey Hacıbeyli, who had a great influence on Fikret Amirov's continuing his artistic career and education, is an educator at the conservatory during this period. Here, Amirov took lessons from Uzey Hacıbeyli on the principles of Azerbaijani folk music and started to compose his first works within the framework of folk music. The composer expressed his thoughts on Uzey Hacıbeyli's art as follows. Uzey Hacıbeyli is a great school of art. Many of us will still go through this school path. We will learn a lot from this school. In order to fully express what the art of Uzey Hacıbeyli gave to the Azerbaijani composers, I can only say this. We all came from the Uzey school. Amirov's works. Amirov started to compose works for the piano while he was still a student. While he was in the first year of the conservatory, he composed variations for piano. His work is the first work based on Azerbaijani folk music and written in variation. The composer dedicated this work to the Baku State Conservatory. In 1945, he composed the works Double Concerto for violin and piano and Concerto for piano and folk instruments, and these works have an indelible place in Azerbaijani music history. Concerto for piano and folk instruments is the first piano concerto sample of Azerbaijan. The Romantic Sonata, written by the composer in 1946, is also the first piano sonata of Azerbaijani music. At the same time, Fikret Amirov composed the children's paintings, which consists of 12 small pieces to be used in a piano education for children and the 12 miniatures for young pianists. Amirov has always been interested in Eastern music and included Eastern music in his works. The composer worked meticulously for the works he composed using Arabic music and visited various Eastern countries during the preparations of the works. As a result of these visits, Amirov, who thought that Arabic music and Azerbaijani music had common aspects, worked with Elmira Nazirova in 1956-57 and composed the piano concerto on Arab themes together with Nazirova. Amirov completed his education at the conservatory by composing the one-act Ulduz Star operetta in 1948, and the maturity of his art began. The composer focused on symphonic music during this period. By synthesizing Azerbaijani folk songs and Western music, he created an unprecedented genre in symphony music. The works Shur and Kurd Ovshari, which he composed in 1948, and Gulustan Bayati-Shiraz, which he composed in 1968, are among the best examples of the Symphonic Mugam genre. The works Shur and Kurd Ovshari were added to the first part of the Fikret Amirov album, released by the Olympia Company in Moscow in 1966. Amirov's Symphonic Mugams enabled the listeners in Europe to become acquainted with Mugam and to have a great interest in Mugam music. These two successful works brought the composer a worldwide reputation, and at the age of 26, he was awarded the Soviet Union State Prize for his works Shur and Kurd Ovshari. Shur and Kurd Ovshari Symphonic Mugams were performed in the USA, and the famous composers who attended the concert showed great interest in these works and also stated that they wanted to meet with Amirov in person. In addition, Amirov's first concert in Washington, Shur and Kurd Ovshari was performed by the Boston Symphony Orchestra. The Gulustan Bayati-Shiraz Symphonic Mugam, composed by Amirov, inspired by the literary work of Iranian poet and great Islamic scholar Sadi Shirazi, named Gulustan, is the 7th edition of the Music Culture of the Peoples, Tradition and Modernity, organized by UNESCO in Moscow. It was included in the program at the International Music Congress. The piece was performed for the first time on October 9, 1971 at the Moscow State Conservatory. Russian composer Boris Yarostovsky, who attended this concert and listened to the piece Gulustan Bayati-Shiraz, expressed his feelings after the concert as follows. We are all deeply influenced by Fikret Amirov's Symphonic Mugam, which we just heard. This work is a continuation of the creative principles in my early Symphonic Mugams. Amirov manages to use folk music as a source in his works very well. Seeing the creative influence of Western and Eastern musical civilizations on each other in Bayati-Shiraz, foreign musicians value this feature of the composer's creativity very high. In addition to these achievements, the composer's Azerbaijan Capriccio, Nizami Symphony, Azerbaijan Symphonic Suite, Portraits, Azerbaijan Engravings, Wagif Symphonic Poem are important works that show his creativity in symphonic music. Fikret Amirov's success set an example for later composers, and Symphonic Mugam music was continued and developed in the future. After Amirov, Niyazi's Rast, Vasif Edgil'ov Seyyah, Süleyman Aleskarov's Bayati-Shiraz, Tawfik Bekirhanov's Humayun, Shahnaz, Rehab and Niva Symphonic Mugams can be given as examples of these works. Amirov gave great importance to stage works and opera music in his art. His interest in the opera genre dates back to his student years. The Aldo's Star Operetta, which he composed in 1948 as a graduation assignment at the Conservatory, is his first work in the field of performing arts. Aldo's Operetta is a one-act operetta composed by Amirov based on Ismail Hidayatzade's libretto. However, we have almost no sources about this work. We know that the work has been preserved in manuscript form, has never been published or staged. The only opera staged by the composer is the Seville Opera. Based on Jafar Jabbar's play Sevil and the libretto by Talat Eyyubov, Amirov composed this piece between 1949 and 1952. The most important feature of this work is that it is the first lyric opera written on a modern subject in the history of Azerbaijani opera. In this work, Fikret Amirov combined folk music melodies with classical opera understanding and became the pioneer of an unprecedented innovation in Azerbaijan opera, just like in Mugam symphonies. With this work, Amirov brought the Azerbaijani opera to the level of world operas and at the same time reached the peak of his art with this work. Seville Opera is a very valuable work in that it touches on a social issue as well as its musical success. Seville is about the role of Azerbaijani women in society, the problems they have suffered and have struggled against the view of patriarchal society. Since the issue of women's rights and freedom was one of the most important issues of that period, it gained a great reputation and was accepted by all segments of society after the staging of both Jahbali's Seville and Amirov's Seville Opera. The president of Azerbaijan, Heydar Aliyev, has the following to say about the Seville Opera. I am not an art critic, not a musicologist, and I cannot undertake that task. But I think that Fikret Amirov reached the highest peak of his creativity with Seville Opera, because this work is both the subject of our modern life and is based on our national music. In addition, when the musical comedy theatre in Baku was opened in 1944, Fikret Amirov's musical comedy Gönül Çalenler took its place among the first staged works. Amirov later composed music for many theatre plays. These works are Kans and Vagif by Samet Vurgun, 1950. Year by Jafar Jabbarlı, Javanshir by Mehmet Hüseyin, Sheikh Sinan by Hüseyin Javed, Down on the Caspian by Imran Gasimov, plays can be cited as an example. The ballad genre, which has an important place in Amirov's performing arts, first shows up with the epic ballad about Nasimi. A commemoration program was organized in 1973 for Nasimi, one of the most important poets of Azerbaijan's history, who deals with subjects such as human being is a precious creature, not hurting the human body and soul, and rights and justice for human beings, in considerations of the 16th anniversary of his birth, with the decision of UNESCO in 1973. On this occasion, Fikret Amirov showed his love and admiration for the literature and the great poet Nasimi with the epic ballad about Nasimi. Another ballad piece, the Ballad of the 1001 Nights, is one of the most important works in Amirov's artistic life and has crossed the borders of the country and made the composer a worldwide success and recognition. 1001 Nights Ballad was met with great interest in our country as well as in the world. Since certain roles of 1001 Nights are related to the Iraqi people, Fikret Amirov and Naila Nazirova went to Baghdad with the official invitation of the Iraqi state in January of this year. They visited the cities of Baghdad, Mosul, Najaf, Karbala, and the Babylon for 2 weeks, had the opportunity to get to know Iraqi music culture closely and listen to the performances and speeches of various artists and national music ensembles. Fikret Amirov gave a speech on Iraqi television and talked about the development of modern Azerbaijani music, the content and form of the 1001 Nights Ballad he was working on. Amirov benefited from vocal music in many of his works and gave great importance to vocal music in his art. He especially composed his songs and romances in the spirit of folk music, just like in Symphonic Mugams. The works were composed in the form of classical songs and at the same time including the folk music approach, and the use of modern techniques in the vocalizations made Amirov's songs and romances special and unforgettable. The composer's works in this field are collected in his book, which he dedicated to Rashid Behbudov, which was published in 1971 and consists of 20 songs for piano and voice. Although each of these songs is very valuable, the song Baharun Song, composed by Amirov, especially in the words of Samit Fugun, has become one of the most well-known and popular songs of a composer in our country. At the same time, the composer's song Reha made an impact in Turkey and throughout the country, and was sung by various sound artists such as Yüksel Özkasap and Gönül Yazar. Amirov's vocal works still occupy a large place in the artist's repertoire today as they did in the past. In addition to famous Azerbaijani artists such as Bulbul, Rashid Behbudov, Gulam Mehmedov, Fikret Amirov, many artists have included Amirov's songs in their concerts. Amirov, who is a dynamic and innovative composer in all aspects, wrote some songs for children while giving vocal works. These songs are suitable for children singing and are instructive. Amirov's contributions to Azerbaijani music. Fikret Amirov, who devoted his life to developing Azerbaijani music and making it known to the world, expressed his views on this subject as follows. I always dreamed that Azerbaijani music would be heard all over the world, because the music of a people can form an idea about it. If I can fulfill this wish of my whole life, even a little bit, I will be very happy.